who has been a client, and she's also an amazing mentor for people to trust their inner wisdom. So I'd love to introduce you to the lovely Sara Smith. Sara, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you do?
Hello, Melissa, and thank you for having me. Yes, so I love how you put that, helping others be able to trust their inner wisdom. And so what I do is I specifically help guide women and men back to their core. And what I mean by that is their pelvis. When we are living and leading and loving from the core and the pelvis, when we go that low, then we really are able to tap into a true form of our inner truth and authenticity and soul purpose. So that is what I do, is help reconnect and align people and awaken them back to their core self and their core inner knowing.
I love it. And one thing I talk about with my clients all the time is how our society is overly masculine, right? It's overly intellectual, and we've lost that connection with our body and with our intuition. And so we have to do a little extra work to come back into balance, because the way that most of us are raised is basically out of balance. And that's
Yes.
where our power lies, is in
Yes.
our intuition. So,
Yeah. I have a lot to say about that.
okay.
Can we start there, even
Let's
though
do
I know
that.
we were gonna go a slightly different direction? The and I have to pick up my model here. So the pelvis is, we call it in the world of pelvic floor physical therapy, which is where I came from, and kind of all of this stuff started awakening within me. But this is a bowl, okay? And the bowl, if we think of, is one of the most ancient forms of containers that we have, right? I mean, we've had that from the beginning of time. And the pelvis really has been deeply hidden and hushed, and purposely, I have found, kind of written out of spiritual religious texts and historical sense. It has been shamed, it has been put in a box, it has then been completely misconstrued. Yet this is where the safest place to store everything that you don't know what to do with, that's happening inside here. Like, if we don't know what to do with it, our body will put it and store it here. It'll also store it here because, skeletally speaking, we kind of hold on to things here, heart and pelvis. But this is one of the strongest places to keep it. It is the deepest and the safest places to keep it. Now, interestingly enough, it's also where our creativity and our power and our authenticity lies. It's where the uterus, the testes, like all of our organs that create life are here.
Mhm.
And so I think that there are very specific things that have kept us from this connection point. And I also think, like, you're exactly like what you're saying, that we have been in this, it used to be actually, historically speaking, a very feminine based lifestyle. And then we came into a lot of masculine based lifestyle. And now we're starting to come back in. We're swinging the pendulum back again, hopefully more, to the middle and that feminine side. But we need that, like you said, that balance. And it's the right time. I feel like we're in such an interesting time, like pelvic floor physical therapy and just lots of different types of ways of connecting with the pelvis are out there right now. And I think we're going to see more and more of them. And there is so much here. I think it's also important that it's trauma informed, and that it is inclusive, and that it is able to really sacredly tap into something that deserves a lot of reverence.
Amazing. Yeah. So it's like we are a soul with a physical body.
Mm.
And but when we're in our body, it's like most people are just in the head, and so your intuitive senses. So I'm all about helping people connect with spirit. But at the end of the day, you have to trust yourself. Your guides are not there to tell you what to do. They're not there to save you, right? They're there to support you in your journey to trust your own self and to be a leader of your own life. It's a big misunderstanding, but let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Well, I'm
So
so glad you're saying it though, again and again.
yeah,
It needs repeating. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So the more that I can have these tools to trust my intuition over the intellect, right? Because in my opinion, that's where our power lies. The intellect is there to organize us and give us direction, but not to make the decisions, you know? So
Absolutely.
yeah. So what would you share with people to help them right now to trust their intuition more?
Hmm. Well, firstly, I have to say, as being a student of yours and a client, that that was transformational for me, and it really also transformed this work because I knew not to be coming from a logical head place, yet was still bouncing back there so often and still do. It's not like it doesn't happen. It's just I catch it so much more quickly than I used to. Um, so that really, really informed so much of kind of this instead of top down way of thinking and being and doing. Like I feel like you just really helped me flip that over and go from the bottom up, which in the work again of connecting to the pelvis that just has been such a mission on my heart was like clicking all the Lego pieces into place. It's like, oh yeah, yes. So that trust, to come back to your question, you know, I like to use this, may be a dramatic example, but I think that it bears significance. You know, if we go to the SPCA and we are looking to adopt a dog or a cat, especially, but I'm going to talk about a dogs because their personalities are very different. Okay. If that dog, young or older, has experienced trauma and a difficult life, we could also say that, you know, it's known that you don't just like hop up in that cage, right? And be like, hey, how are you? You know, what's going on? And kind of expect it to be your best friend.
Mm-hmm.
So trust, I feel like is something that is earned, it is practiced, and it is practiced and it is practiced, and then it's a form of communication where two people very slowly, like the animal and the person, come together slowly over time and establish a bond to where then this thing with a big capital T, trust, is formed. And sometimes, because we are in a human experience, trust is broken, and then we have to determine, you know, are we able to reestablish that again? Is it worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze? So we have within ourselves, I am just a firm believer in parts work in the world of psychology. And so we have these parts of us. And because of our history that we're coming in with, there's been often a fundamental split. And so we do not trust parts of ourselves. And they're there. So therefore, trusting our intuition is like, you know, again, me going out and trusting, I don't know, somebody who's just does not seem trustworthy whatsoever. It's a big ask. It's a big reach. And again, one of the things that I now just shout from the rooftops, but really came from also learning and studying with you, was establishing that trust, to go with it, to really tap into that intuition. And, you know, for me, I say, like, we need to tap into the pelvis. We need to tap into the core, which I can go more into that. But when we tap into that intuition and we receive a message, it's to go with the message, whatever it is, even if it makes no sense. Mm-hmm. Like I received a message. I do something now called the core wisdom meditation, the pelvic wisdom meditation. I kind of use that interchangeably. And I was doing it with my membership group for the spring season, and the word was hiding. And And I was like, honestly, I was like, okay, yep, there's Melissa in my head again. Like, what would Melissa say? I didn't like that. I did not like what I received.
Mm-hmm.
The same way that, when I've done your course and have done work with you, there's some times where I'm like, oh, I love that. That's a fantastic message that I've just
Yeah.
received. And then other times it's like, ugh, I don't like that.
Mm.
And as I continue to tune in, it's where are you hiding? And I tell you, as I just practice the art of letting go and saying, okay, I'm going to work with this, just like with the SPCA dog. Like I'm going to establish trust. I'm going to say like, okay, I'm here for you. I'm not going to make any fast movements, but I am acknowledging you. I see you. I hear you. I'm going to listen to you. We have to do this with our children too, right? Well, we have to do this with ourselves. When we learn to love and connect with ourselves, then that bond of trust is there. And then we become like Melissa, who's like, and Sarah is not far behind being like, okay, I got it. Like you get the message and you're just like, I'm running. I'm doing it. And then things just start falling into place. It's supposed to be clunky at first, because we are fundamentally taught not to trust the body, yes, not to trust the messages, not to even trust anybody but what people are telling us. Mm-hmm. And again, I think that is fundamentally historically coming from almost like a mind washing of like, don't be in your power. Please don't. Let's let certain people be in their power, but not everybody.
Oh,
and we have to challenge that.
It's so good. So one thing I want to comment on is that I love that you're saying that it can be a slow process, because I think that people would look at someone like you and me and go, oh, wow, they're so psychic. How are they doing that? I could never be like that. But it's like they're not seeing that slow progression and journey to that point, right? And I do think that it can happen quicker than people think. But like you say, it's like I've got to change my wiring and get back in touch with that part of myself. And also I love that you're saying like, this is actually a systemic thing in our society to not be in your power.
It is. I am saying
who wants that? Like, let's kind of say no to that.
No more.
Right? And start with yourself and then be a demonstration to others that we can live in our power. And it's not like that overly masculine version of power over somebody else. It's that balanced of masculine and feminine of I know who I am and what I can create, right? And that so the answers are inside of us.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know who I am. Yeah. I want to speak to real quick, the more that I have connected with these parts of me that I haven't cared for, or that I've pushed down, or that I just didn't even know they were there. I wasn't tuned in to all of myself. Because, for me, I'll speak just simply for me, it was way more comfortable to be like, ugh, I don't like this part of me. And that hurt so bad that then I would just hop into something else, right? I would just go do the next thing. I would just go purchase the next thing. Like it was a very interesting cycle. And so the more that I have really chosen to practice time and time again, loving myself, the more my intuition has just become off the charts. And at times it even surprises me. And you're right. I think for some people that's a little easier, to radically kind of step into that and be open to that part. For me personally, I, have my doctorate in physical therapy. I grew up in the world of healthcare. I had a lot of kind of science, researchy, logical based, beautiful family members and, kind of mentors in my life. And so I had really turned off so much of that until I started to realize that my inner compass was floundering out at sea and I didn't want to anymore.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And I just keep thinking as we're talking here about, so many people are just in their head, right? Because we're taught
Yes.
to think, we're taught to be logical. And also I think we're taught to just follow the expectations, and that kind of like, what's the logical choice? What's expected of me, right?
Yes.
So I love that what you're working with is helping people to get into the lower regions of the body,
Yes.
because that's more in touch with the feminine intuitive power cells. And by the way, I'm using those words feminine and masculine just for people watching. It doesn't mean really anything about female and male. It's
Right.
that those two aspects of ourselves, whatever gender your body happens to be, right?
Yeah. It's an
So,
essence. Yeah.
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 So how share a little bit about, that the work that you do with helping people to get in touch with that pelvic wisdom. What's that about?
I want to describe something first. Most of us, like even if you're listening to this right now, most of us are often escaping our bodies. And so like we are not sitting in our seat. We're either forward or we're very back and hesitant. The
Mhm.
heart may be posturally closed. The pelvic floor may be, activated and tense. The jaw may be tense. And so therefore we are contracted in the physical body, and then we are escaping so that we can connect with who it is we're supposed to connect with, and to make sure that we're doing it in a way that everybody's going to like us and feel safe. Like we want to feel safe. We want to be liked and seen and heard at all costs. And there's different degrees of this. So, plenty of people have worked on this. And so there's different layers then that come up. So, but this idea of safety, this is where and why I guide people to the pelvis, is that the pelvis is your seat of safety and security. So most of us also, not only are we living very externally, like literally we're escaping our bodies, our energy is just like, okay, scanning the room, like who's at the party right now and what do they think? And, all the things going on. What are they thinking about me? So there's that. And then we're also living in the upper half of the body. Okay. Not even really diaphragm, like about chest up. And so the way that I describe this is that we're living from what's called the scared heart and the worried, hurting head. And when we're in this place, it's a very dangerous place because we have a whole entire half of the body that we now don't occupy energetically, physically, otherwise. We have no clue what's going on down there. We have no clue if we're tensing, anything. And there's really interesting research that looked at the perceived sexual threat versus anxiety, the effect of that on the pelvic floor tension. Like how tight is the pelvic floor? Okay. And one would think that a perceived sexual threat would like be high, right?
Right.
And cause like all pelvic floor, whoosh, to be up and at them.
Mm-hmm.
But really what happens, what they found in is this research is that anxiety, what we are thinking about and chronically thinking about is tightening the pelvic floor. So when you connect lower with the pelvic floor, and that can be on a physical level, like I use something called the core alignment method. And so C, that first part of the core alignment method, is connecting with your physical core. We need to know what in the world it is. We need to know what the pelvic floor muscles is, what in the world is down there. and when and how to have pliability of the musculature, but that's just the first step. That's just the first step. So when you connect with the pelvic floor, like even as you're sitting right now, and you can feel maybe your hips, you can feel your sit bones, you can feel how you're sitting in the chair. You can feel if you're standing, kind of where, the abdomen and the buttocks and the hips, everything is aligned. Once you connect with that, then you're starting to establish safety and security in your system. You're beginning to inhabit and ground. We talk about this concept of grounding. You need to be grounded. Yes, go put your feet outside on the earth, right? That's one very important thing, but also occupy our own bodies, because we need to be able to access this in the boardroom. We need to be able to access this on the plane. We need to be able to access this like right before we're going into a difficult communication. So we're establishing safety by connecting in with the pelvis. And
Mm.
when you establish safety, then as you learn to do a Kegel, so like I'll kind of, we'll do a very specific technique where then we learn how to do a Kegel, and then you draw all that wisdom up.
Mm.
All that, like, and actually what we do through a meditation that I have, that pelvic wisdom and core wisdom meditation, is we gather a message from the pelvis, and we gather that, and then we funnel it through the abdomen, which is where the solar plexus and our courage and our confidence and our self-empowerment is. But you don't have that if you don't have safety and security established in your system. That's why you have to go lower, in my personal opinion. And everything else.
That makes
And
so
then
much sense, by the way.
yeah, okay, good. Because I'm always curious, of adapting and making sure that it really is assisting people, which so far the results have been miraculous, nothing short of miraculous. But then we have to filter that Kegel, and that we have to bring that wisdom up through the heart, because we're not here again to just be these like egoic, like, I'm just here to be successful. All I care about is my family. Like, yes, I have the desire to share and give back, but I'm not emotionally available. That's a closed heart. Most of us are then not connecting with what's called the sacred heart. And so that when you go from living in the top half, when you're in the scared heart, when you go down to the pelvis and then you funnel it through the heart, you're activating your sacred heart. Now we're on a whole different energetic wavelength. Yeah. That's really awesome. And it gives me chills. And then we have to be able to communicate. So the last thing I'll say, in the core alignment method, it's like we go from C, connecting to the physical pelvic floor and the core. And then we go into O, which is opening and releasing and overcoming these hidden blocks. Because I'm telling you, like, this stuff gets so hidden in the body that we don't see our own blinders, right? And then we have to reconnect with this inner wisdom, right? That you and I are like, it's like we have to connect with this inner wisdom. How you go about that, I have my way, you have your way. Like it's so important to learn, I think, many ways and then find the way that works for the individual. I really think that's vitally important, again, because, your guides and your body will tell you what it wants to do. Right. And then we have to E, so through the throat and then through the head, we have to emerge. We have to take action. Everything's wonderful if it's in a cool little container. But what if, like, we could walk into the room, like at the party or, at the SPCA, talking to the animal, or talking to our children, or talking to a client, and be able to emerge as completely ourselves, where you're in your body, I say about 60%, and then you're attuning to what's around you by about 40%, but you're in your body, you're in your truth, you're in your intuition, so that then we can actually practice this thing called trusting the intuition, right? Like, it's vitally important.
Yes. Yes. I love this, because it's like people are there because they're in the head and in the upper chakras, basically.
Yeah.
Looking out there for answers, and they're thinking about, what am I supposed to do? Okay, I don't like my job, so what else can I do? And it's like, I call it the hamster wheel, what you were describing earlier. It's hamster wheel. Like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Right. And actually, we need to learn to go down to those lower chakras. And I love what you're saying about safety, because if I don't feel safe, then how can I trust my intuition? How can I really know that that is my truth? Right. Yeah. So I have, so learning this practice is really amazing. We were chit-chatting before we hopped on about how people talk about trusting your gut and the heart. Right? And we know that these chakras here are about connection to the universe. But it's like those lower chakras have kind of been forgotten about and shamed, like you were saying. So I think this aligning is really, going to help people to kind of do this in the right order. That's another thing I talk about, is it's feel, think, act, right? And people are going think, 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 think. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing that comes to my mind is I myself have said many times, you know, of course I'm safe. Of course I have safety. And we're talking about, for the most part, I think people that we are coming in contact with more regularly and who are engaging with us, um, you know, live in industrialized countries, have decent income, to excellent income, depending, and really could look around and say, well, who am I to even say that I'm not safe? Because there's so much that's unsafe that's, again, outside of me. And I think
Mm.
what we are really ignoring is that safety and security, those lower chakras are started at your very beginning years of life, especially that the first and second, the first few years of life, they're coming in. And so at that time, this is how another one of my mentors, Anna Pittman, had described this. We're little amoebas. We are feeling everything around us. And our whole job is to make sure that we feel safe and secure. But we are doing that by learning very early on how to scan the environment for safety and security. So we are not hardwired to do what you're asking people to do, right? What I am doing with the pelvic work. We're not hardwired for that. We're hardwired to be these little precious, plump little blobs when we come into life, and like looking around and scanning. Is
Yeah.
mama okay? Is caregiver over there okay? Am I going to be fed next?
Mm.
And so I would challenge kind of all of us, and I've had to do that for myself, to really, not like in a scary way, but to be like, no, there have been times that to you, it may not be logically perceived as something that threatened your safety, but there were things that were there that kind of took you out of that. And then we get kind of re-triggered, I guess is the word that I use a lot, into feeling like we're not safe and secure and then beating ourselves up and getting into shame about it over finances, over like what our next career move is, over, just any decision that we're trying to make. And it's all coming from kind of this old programming. So when you get yourself fully on board and you can communicate with these parts, then you come back into wholeness. And again, then it's this beautiful, beautiful communication of everything within you connecting.
Mm. What a beautiful way to finish. Thank you so much. That was really
Yeah.
inspiring. So I know you have a free gift for people. Would you like to describe what that is?
Yeah. So we'll I guess put it in your, in the comments in the message below, but it's the core wisdom or the pelvic wisdom meditation. And what I did with is actually like recently revamped it. And so it comes with it's kind of a pretty substantial free gift, but that's the way Sara rolls.
Pack the punch.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're gonna do it, you might, I love gifts. So it comes with like an audio training with it, and then so that you can kind of prep yourself for what we're doing and what in the world this is. And then we do the audio then with the pelvic wisdom meditation, the core wisdom meditation. So it's a way to, in a very short amount of time, by meaning like, 15, 20 minutes, be able to access the pelvic floor, the body, the lower half of the body. And if that's not safe for you, I do talk about this in the audio too. You can be with your big toe, you can be with your knee. You don't have to be, this is a very charged area, and it's not safe and appropriate for everyone to go right to and connect with their pelvic floor, especially without a guide. So we do the pelvic wisdom meditation so that you can actually receive a word for yourself, a message, a piece of wisdom that bubbles up from you that can inform your day, that can inform your month, that can inform a message for your business, whatever that may be. And then there's a workbook that goes with that too, to kind of help you kind of journal and jot down and really deepen the wisdom in which you've received. So I'll share that with you so you can share it with everyone.
Awesome. Yes, definitely have a look at the link for that below and enjoy that amazing meditation with Sara. And thank you so much for being here, my dear.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.